How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. We still having an internet problem, but today we were late for a different reason. We was not late because the internet wasn't acting right. So before I get started today, I'm going to go on a small tangent, and I'm going to tell you guys about some bull jive that happened to me today. And I just really want to go in on that real quick because it actually does apply to business, and I kind of want to make sure that I get off on the right foot when I'm talking about business. So as we kind of get things rolling, make sure that you guys like and subscribe. Join the membership. I'm gonna throw this thing in there because I know that Beast Mode is supposed to be jumping in here. I know that Fireball is supposed to be jumping in here. So I want to make sure that, I throw some shout outs to some of my boys that keep popping in and saying what's up. And then over here, for those of you that are over the age of 18, I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to hit that link and request to get in from TikTok side. And then the rest of you guys that are watching the podcast from the StreamYard side, we're going to be putting a link in the comment section in just a minute for us to be able to give you guys the opportunity to approve the mic, approve the camera, and then jump into the podcast on the other side of things. I also want to give me a real quick shout out to Omni81 from Twitch, and also I'm going to say that one more time because it looked like I froze up again. Omni81 from Twitch. I want to give a shout out to you guys. I haven't put your name up on the list yet of the fans that are coming in because Omni81 is calling from Brazil, so I really appreciate you. From Romania, I've got Red Void. I want to throw out a shout out for him as well. Today, we are going to be talking about appreciation versus depreciation and determining asset values as we analyze appreciation of value versus depreciation of value and depreciation of profits due to appreciation of value and vice versa. And the reason why we're going to be talking about this is because there's a lot of the times there's purchases that can be made that you shouldn't make because it's a waste of money. You're not going to really get that much entertainment from it. And then there's also some purchases that can be made that you should make because you're going to benefit from those purchases in the long run. And that's going to be the difference that we're going to be determining today. But before I get in that, because, I'm always talking about business. I got a young man that I've been trying to mentor for a while, and sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard. You got just some hard-headed folks. Remember, I told y'all before. I told you guys. I said you gotta make sure that you do not overextend yourself to the wrong individual. So before I get in on that, I just want to talk about the fact that you got to have people that you mentor across, you mentor down, people that are allegedly on your level versus people that haven't made it to your level yet. You're supposed to be able to teach everybody reasonably what they need to know so that they can get on your level. The people who are functioning the way they should be functioning to be the most successful, those people, you want to learn from those people. But if you've got somebody that's on your level that's making mistakes, you're supposed to be able to mentor that person and let that person know that they're making mistakes, and then teach that person how to make less mistakes so that they can be more successful. I've come across today, I had that situation happen where I was trying to mentor. So I've known this guy for about 12, almost 13 years now. And I guess because we have become such good buddies that he forgot respect. And he's from Japan, but he doesn't know mutual respect. And then he also doesn't know regular respect outside, which is there's a difference in regular respect and mutual respect. Mutual respect is that we kind of respect each other as equals, but regularly you respect your elders. So young man is 10 years younger than I am. So there's a generation gap there, believe it or not. He's part of the next generation, and I am part of the last generation. Okay. And and he's supposed to be able to have respect for his elders, and he has yet to learn respect for his elders. So when I'm trying to teach him something, he's hard-headed. He talks back, and then he tries to justify when he makes a mistake. And I spent the first hour before my podcast explaining to him, I'm like, bro, that is not how to do things in life. Even as a boss, because I tried to help start up a business with him, everything to that effect. I actually started up quite a few businesses, even getting into this podcast, and he couldn't even handle that. But the fact is, I stated more often than not, I say, look, in business, you have to know how to communicate with your workers. You have to know how to negotiate with your partners. When you're in business with somebody, you have to communicate with them in advance. The same way, those of you that are on TikTok, when you've seen Elon Musk talk about that $5 or $7 billion project, and he went out to the Twitter platform and asked everybody, did a survey and asked everybody what they thought whether they agreed or disagreed with his idea to put forth that particular model. Most of the people on TikTok bought Tesla stock. Not everybody, but most of the people, because Elon Musk owns Twitter. So most of the people that are on Twitter got a couple shares of Tesla stock. So it's to the general public, and told the general public, hey, because most of y'all probably got stock in my company anyway, and even if you're not a voting member of the shares, I still want your opinion. What do you think about me taking $8 billion and doing something X, Y, and Z with it that's going to positively impact the company Tesla, which will positively impact the shareholders of Tesla? Now, this man's a billionaire. He asked, ideally, I do believe the Twitter platform has almost 2 billion. I could be wrong. It could be 100 million, but he has almost 2 billion people on his He asked his entire platform, would you guys yay or nay on me spending this money on this project? And that was before, because he clearly said in that message that he was going to bring it to the board and bring it to their attention after that survey. Now, everybody who's got stake in the game, everybody who got meat and potatoes on the table, he sent them all a notification and said, hey, I'm planning on taking a large quantity of money and making a big money move. What you think about that? Just to get your opinion. He's not technically asking you for permission to make a big money move, but he's keeping you informed, keeping you included with that big money move. And if you're not agreeing with that big money move, you're going to say, well, I don't agree with that, and this is why. You're not just going to say no because he didn't ask you first before he asked LeBron James. You're going to say, well, risk assessment dictates that if you do this, it's going to cost more harm than good, or there's a low probability of success if I put X number of dollars in here than I do this over here. These are the things that will give the person who's going to do the investing the opportunity to look at things that he might have missed. Now, if you're mentioning something to him that he already come about understanding, he should be able to have a response to that and say, well, I understand that was a concern. I had that concern too. This is the information that I came with. This is how I'm going to circumvent that. The same way everybody put all their money up for the Tesla truck. Remember, you had to put a $100 registration fee up in order for you to be on that 2.5 million person pre-order list. So nobody can ever go to a Tesla dealership and buy a brand new zero owner Tesla truck for the next 5 to 10 years at the pace of them putting out 6,000 Tesla trucks a year. But the $2 million plus of money that Elon Musk got from each person putting up $100 to be on the reserve list gave each person the ability to aid in Elon not having to take his $8 billion to build the Gigatech factory in Texas and build a Cybertruck, even though the current Cybertruck that is being produced has so many recalls and so few features in comparison to the demo in 19 and 21. He don't even have the bulletproof windows. The non-bulletproof windows are shattering. The front frame is bending. Front bumpers falling off. It doesn't have the full service autopilot on it. The some of the trunks barely have the solar panel on it. The massive 5-foot big ass solar panel thing on there he said he was going to do for camping, they don't even got that as an accessible. The trucks with the giant fog light on the roof, they don't got that going on yet neither. None of that stuff is on the foundation model where you're paying an extra $25,000 on the inflated price that was originally supposed to be $79,995. They made it now $99,995, which is $20,000 more. And even though you're paying $20,000 more than your original reservation price, and no, your reservation price does not lock in that that $80,000 value, you are now guaranteed to be the first person to pay that $100,000. But if you order now, you pay an extra $25,000 and they'll ship it to you within 30 days if you're giving them $125,000. So he didn't fulfill his promise. I was telling my partner, I said, look, a boss is not going to sit here and say, oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. a boss is going to say, I recognize I made a mistake. Don't worry about that. I got a solution to the problem. His solution to the problem was when he promised a year, 2 years ago that, oh, after the Gigatech factory goes into full effect, we're going to be producing like 375,000 trucks a year. Go back and do your reviews. Go back and look at the interviews. He said that. He put out almost 6,000 last year. He's putting out about the same amount this year. So why is the factory in full distribution and he's putting out less than 6,000 a year? What he said was, well, bump that. Don't worry about that. We don't have to put out 500,000 Cybertrucks a year. We can keep putting out 6,000 Cybertrucks a year. We can give discounts and rebates and promos to people that are on the list that can turn in their reservation and buy a different Cybertruck with a discount. Still making money. He turned who drives itself. And that does two things. One, it keeps Rolls-Royce from having the only autonomous car, which is competitive in the electric car market. But the other thing that he did was he said, hey, I have not put the self-driving software in the Cybertruck, but I can put the self-driving software in this car, get a bunch of data from the self-driving vehicle, and then take that data, put it into the Cybertruck as an update. So everybody that still owns a Cybertruck, when the self-driving data from the self-driving taxi is calculated, I can just upload that as a software update to everybody else's car. And some people, I can sell it to them. Some people, I can give it to them as a free upgrade because they got the founder edition. You see what I'm saying? He found ways to fix the problem. He did not just jump up there and say, oh, I fucked up. I don't care. I'm sorry. This is what happened. Oh, well, you know, it was the oh, it wasn't, it's not my, it's the manufacturer battery. He didn't do all that. Big Boss said, don't worry about it. I didn't come through. Don't worry about it. You're still going to make money on the back end. Look at what he did when the shareholders got mad because the shareholders didn't get paid one term. What he said, you're going to get your money with interest. Don't worry about it. Did he, oh, I'm sorry I failed you. I'm not producing the way I promised that I was going to produce. No, he said, no, don't worry about it. We're going to make big money on the back end. I'm a billionaire. Trust me. I'll make you a millionaire too. What did they do? They stuck with him. Did Tesla stock plummet because Cybertrucks didn't sell? No. What happened was robotic cars and robotic people and robotic dogs is what happened. Tesla stock still getting money. Cybertruck still underdeveloped. That's how bosses take money. So what I did was I told my partner, I said, look, I said, bro, in all honesty, as a boss, if you forgot something, be a man about it. Show up. Conflict avoidant and passive on top of that. Never a good look. Conflict avoidant when you show up and you're trying to make excuses for the reason why you made mistakes. You're going to your team. You're about to tell your team that we're failing. And it's not their fault. They know it's not their fault. We're failing because you messed up. Now, you're going to go explain to the team that you messed up and the team is going to negatively be impacted by that. There's no way that you're going to go there and make it seem like the team failed themselves by trusting you and still maintain authority with the team. That's not going to happen. You have to maintain authority with the team by owning your responsibility. You have to be the person that goes up and says, look, I already know that I made some mistakes. I already know that this didn't go the way I had planned. I've got a solution. This is what we're going to do. Collateral damage. I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to take care of that. I'm going to take care of the other. Problem solved. He even made a mistake. He came to me. He tells me I'm trying to teach him how to be a better him. He even made a mistake. He came to me and told me, well, you know, he came to me and tells me, well, you know, he says that he's had to clean up my mistakes plenty of times. Bro, if you take a business loan, you take the business loan. That's not my mistake. You take the business loan. If you overdraft a transaction, you overdraft the transaction. I didn't overdraft the transaction. I have never spent money that I didn't have money in a bank account for. I am going to deliberately overdraft a bank account with full knowledge that I am not saying that was a mistake. But I've never done that. I say I ain't got enough money. I'm not gonna spend an extra $35 to overdraft the bank account so that I can pay this bill right now when the late fee on this item is going to be $10 to $15 or 1 to 3%, which might be less than $10 to $15. Wouldn't it make more sense to pay the late fee to the company than $35 to the bank? And that's one of the reasons why we're talking about today's appreciation, depreciation versus determining your asset value. And that's one of the reasons why it started with that story, is because when you spend money in a fiscally responsible way, then the only time you're spending money is when you're about to make a profit or you're building for a profit. You are not spending money to cover a mistake. That is going to be a depreciation in value of your assets, of your profits. Take, for example, if you buy a car, you've got to pay notes on your car. Your car note might be $200 or $300 per month of a $20,000, $30,000 bill. That bill has been broken down to annual payments over the course of 4 to 7 years, depending on the dealership that you go with, depending on the finance agent that they assign you to. Which, if you remember what I told you yesterday, if you've got a credit union, after they give you a finance company, you can refinance with your bank and then buy out the original loan, which gives you a positive installment, and then you can potentially have additional additional time to make the first payment, sometimes as much as 90 days, where you don't have to pay your car note because your car note just got paid off by your credit union. I was talking to you guys about that yesterday. But how you doing, Lucas Opposer? But the thing is, if you have a car note, you owe all of that money right now. If you give them, say your car note is $300 a month. If you give them $600, that doesn't mean you don't owe them $300 next month, because you owe them $20, $30, $40, $60,000. If you give them $600, that just means you gave them $600. They'll apply that to your principal. But you still owe them $300 next month, and you're going to keep owing them until you pay them off. You just have one less payment at the end of your payment plan because you didn't pay them off. And the fact is that if you have a limited bill, say like car insurance or a phone bill, which is a reoccurring service where they determine how much money you owe for this month, and that's all you have to pay. If you know that your phone bill is under $200 a month, you give your phone bill $400. They owe you service now because you overpaid the bill. It's the difference between overpaying on a phone bill, overpaying on a car insurance note versus overpaying on a car note. You owe more than 20 grand on a car note. You can't overpay on a car note. You can just pay extra on the outstanding debt. You can overpay on a phone bill. You can overpay on a light bill. You can overpay on car insurance because it's a limited bill. And the more money you pay in a shorter period of time, the less payments you have, because it is supposed to be for this duration of time that you're paying for this much money. 6 months of car insurance, 5 monthly payments divided up. And if you're paying $300 a month for 5 months, if you give them $600 1 month, you only have to pay 4 months now. So if you're going to keep the 5-month payment plan, you pay $600 1 month, $0 1 month, $300 the next month. With a phone bill, if you only pay $200 a month, you give them $400. You don't owe them any money next month. So if you pay $200 this month, no money next month, you owe them $200 the next month. But if you owe a car and it's $600, or if it's $300 and you give them $600, you can give them $600 every month for the first 12 months. That does not mean that your next year that you're not going to have to give them $300. They would have to refinance your car and reduce your payments, which will be an average percentage, which that $600 a month that you pay for the first 12 months would reduce your payments to approximately $250 a month. It doesn't mean that because you double paid for the first 12 months that the next 12 months that you don't have to give any money, because you still owe them 20 grand. The faster you give them money, the more money you give them, the less payments you're going to have on the back end. That's what you got to think about when you're dealing with assets. Now, Lucas says, but if appreciation is so common in the world, what happened when there is someone who is not appreciated? Appreciation is not common. And that's the reason why it's called appreciation, because appreciation is something that gains value. Not everything gains value. Most things lose value. Since most things lose value, when something has a value and then it gains value, that thing becomes more valuable. That is appreciation. You're referring to people appreciating you. If everybody is appreciated, then what happens when somebody is not appreciated? I can tell you right now. Let's put this question back up here because I just want to go over it real quick, because this is a social experiment we've been talking about on the podcast for the last year, but it kind of applies to money though. You say, if appreciation is so common in the world, what happens when there is someone who is not appreciated? The way that the women treat the American men in the United States is what happens. Men are not appreciated. Women are appreciated. Women are overly appreciated for extended periods of time. Men spoil women for absolutely no reason, because they look attractive is the most that you get out of that explanation. And as a result, a person who is overly appreciated feels entitled to that type of treatment. Then instead of gratitude being provided to the person that is appreciating them, gratitude for being appreciated, being provided, what happens is the appreciation becomes an expectation that you must treat me this way. That develops into a self-entitlement. That self-entitlement means that everybody must treat me this way. And the don't shall be punished or shunned in some way, shape, or fashion for not giving me what I believe I am entitled to. But if mutual respect was common, appreciation is uncommon, because mutual respect, I treat you the way you treat me. Appreciation is I treat you better than you treat me. If everybody's treating everybody better, then everybody's equal, which means that you don't have appreciation. You have a heightened level of mutual respect. So if someone is not being appreciated, that person is being mistreated because he is not being appreciated the way everybody else around him is being appreciated. And the question that you would have to ask is, why is this one individual in a society that has a heightened level of mutual respect for one another not respecting this person? Nobody's doing it. Everybody should be receiving it. So if everybody's doing it and one person's not receiving it, what did this person do or not do to lead this person to not be appreciated by his surroundings? That's the question that you need to answer. So you riddled me this, Lucas, and I riddled you that. Back to our appreciation. Now, I kind of did some digging, because you know I don't never bring you guys no bull jive. I kind of did some digging. And when I did some digging, I had to get in there and I had to start grabbing some stuff. So in order for me to talk to you guys about appreciation, we got to start talking about what appreciation is. Value appreciation is going to refer to, as I explained to you a moment ago, the increase in value of an asset over time. Whatever that asset is, an asset is stuff. Sometimes it's assets or people, because assets are things that you benefit from. Okay. Liabilities are things that cost you. Assets are things that you benefit from. We consider people assets when we can benefit from associating with them. An asset is somebody who can get us a connection to something. Like if you've got a best friend that's got a rare collectible trading card that he'll let you borrow for the tournament, hey, that's an asset. If you've got a best friend that'll let you use your card, that's an asset. If you've got a friend that'll help you start up a business, that's an asset. If you've got a friend that'll help pay bills that you can't afford to pay, that's an asset. A liability, you're not going to like this. A liability, children that cost their parents money, that's a liability. Women that cost their boyfriends money, that's a liability. Men that cost their girlfriends money, that's a liability. Stuff, memberships that you pay for, where the only benefit that you get from that is entertainment, that is a liability. buying things that you're only going to look at and utilize for right now. And then after that, next month, the month after that, it serves no purpose. It sits in a closet, it collects dust, it clutters your house up. Those are liabilities. Anything that has a negative financial impact on you, where you're spending money on it and getting nothing beneficial from that spending, is a liability. Okay. Now, assets, when you buy something, you hold on to it, that's an asset. Assets can be leveraged. Buy a car. A car is a depreciating asset. Why is it a depreciating asset? Because you benefit from having a car. You have transportation. Some people live in their cars. You can borrow against the value of that car. So it's an asset. You can benefit from it. But the value of that asset depreciates over time. So the concept of this particular field is going to be utilized in things like finance, real estate, and other areas of the economy. Now, when you're dealing with an appreciating asset, you're dealing for something tangible, and it's going to be anything: a house, a car, the furniture in your house, your video game consoles, anything that can be bought and or sold for profit. Anything that you own that can be resold is an asset. The value of those assets are different. Now, the value of the asset is going to be depending upon the demand. So anybody that's got a Nintendo 64, even though PlayStations and Xboxes are the thing right now, a Nintendo 64 will have a demand for people who like archaic video games. If you own a Nintendo 64 and somebody wants a Nintendo 64 and they can't get it from somewhere, that creates a demand. If you're willing to sell your Nintendo 64 and somebody wants to buy it from you, depending on how much they're willing to pay for it, determines the value of the console. If the value of the console is now more than what it was when you bought it, then the value of the console has appreciated. If they're not willing to pay as much for the console now as you paid for it when you first got it brand new, then the value has depreciated. Anything worth paying for is only valued at what somebody is willing to pay for it. Things that are considered priceless are technically worthless. Fact. Now, things that are overly expensive are considered seemingly priceless because your ass can't afford that shit. Fact. When they say priceless artifact, we can't put enough zeros on the back of the value of this item. That's a priceless artifact. Priceless artifact, it's worthless, but it's rich in history. You'll learn something from it. Museums might pay a lot of money to show it to people. People might pay a lot of money to the museum to go and look at it. But overall, the item itself has no value. Priceless. Now, worthless means nobody want it. Priceless means that there's no value to it. Like nobody can put a price on that. See what I'm saying? So depreciation of value. Think about vehicles. In America, vehicles depreciate in value for the first 20 to 30 years. Then they become antiques. Then they appreciate them. But do they ever make it back to the original value? Some might, if it is still in the original condition. Stock rims, stock stereo system, stock interior, original paint job, original mint condition. Very rarely happens. If you modify it, can it ever return to its original value? No. Why? because the value of a 30-year-old car that has been fully restored is valued at the cost that the person paid to restore it, potentially with a little bit more on top. 1964 Volkswagen Jetta, not a Jetta, Volkswagen Beetle. 1964 Volkswagen Beetle in mint condition, stock, might be worth $64,000 because the owner put $60,000 into restoring that vehicle. It might have been originally sold for $15,000. Could have been originally sold for $10,000. Is the vehicle valued at more now than what it was when it was first sold? The answer is no, because you would have to sell it for the amount of money you put into it plus the amount of money that you paid for it, and somebody would have to be willing to buy it for that. So cars do depreciate in value. Cars can increase appreciation of value. When they appreciate in value, modified car insurances for it, where you get $1 million car insurance policy, where if they crash the car, you get your $1 million. You want somebody to fuck that car up, but you kind of don't, because you're not going to be able to fix it. But you cash in on the insurance policy, all the money you put into that car and some is going to come back to you, just like life insurance policy. So when you buy things for appreciation of value, this is going to be those collectors. Collect by coins, stamps, Hot Wheels, Pokemon cards, collectible trading cards, antique relic video game consoles. These things will hold money in 40, 50 years. They may have value right now because it's already 40, 50 years old, and somebody wants historical items in their possession. So if you pick it up, hold on to it for a little bit, and then put it up for sale, somebody will pay more to get it from you now than what you paid when you got it from somebody else before. That is appreciation of value. So you're going to look at a couple types of appreciation of value. One of those appreciations of value is going to be capital appreciation. That type of appreciation is going to refer to specifically the increase in the market price of a financial asset like stocks and real estate. So the property value of your house going up is a capital appreciation. So if you put up something for $100 and then the value of that is $150 now, then the appreciated value is $50, which means that you bought it for $100, but you can now sell it for $100. When you do real estate, the appreciation value, this building before it gets renovated could be sold at $400,000. It's only worth $200,000 right now because there's $50,000 worth of repairs that needs to be done to the building. If you buy the building from the current owner for $200,000 and then you put the $50,000 of repair into it, you can sell the property for $400,000. So what could you do with a property that is worth $400,000? Well, most people give you money for the after repair value. What is the after repair value? That's the AVR. Now, or ARV. The after repair value of a property, if it's $400,000, they typically offer you about 60, 65%, 70%, which is almost $275,000 to $300,000. Now, if you bought the property for $250, you got the $250,000 because that's the AVR. You used the money that you borrowed, fixed the property. You didn't really put any money down on this. Sometimes you got to put up 10% of the loan, but now you have the potential of getting the other $150,000 as a profit from the sale. That $150,000 pays off the interest on the $250,000. The other $100,000 is divided between you, your real estate agent, and your broker, and your construction workers. Well, no, the construction workers get paid off the $50,000 for the repair. So really, you're just dividing that last $100,000 between you, the real estate agent, and the broker. If you have somebody else that went in with you, that helped invest in it with you, that helped you with the deal, that person also gets a cut. But that's how you're able to determine appreciative values. When you're determining appreciative values, you're able to analyze how much money you will make if you spend this much money on this. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. So if you think about, I'm going to go buy a WWE title for $500, will that title make you money? No. So is that an appreciative item? No. If you're not making a profit off of it, what are you doing? Taking a loss. So that purchase is what? A liability. Risk assessment with every financial decision that you make in life means that you are not going to make liable choices. You're only going to make appreciative choices. So when you start thinking about money, ladies, when y'all start thinking about where you're going to put your money and what you're going to do with your money, you're going to think about making sure that whatever you're about to pay for is going to make you more money than you're spending. So if the person that's paying for your hair and nails to get done is going to get a 20% return on that investment, then talk to them about it. If they're just going to pay $1,250 because they love you, that's a liability. Risk assessment. If you're asking somebody else to invest in your upkeep, if that upkeep is not going to benefit that other person outside of visual aesthetics, it's a liability. So should that person invest in you when you are only a liability? For those that don't know the answer to that question, I flip it. Ladies, should you invest in a man if you know that he is a liability? Any woman that says no, the answer to the first question then is likewise no. So, currency appreciation is another one. This is going to occur when currency increases in the value relative to another currency, affecting the purchase power of international purchases. So the difference between the value of the US dollar versus the value of the yen versus the value of the yuan, the value of the euro versus the value of the former three, that is how the currency values. When the value of money differs, it changes. Then that means that, say for example, there's like 100 yen to a yuan to a dollar, if I remember correctly, right now, currency exchange. And if I am correct about those currency exchanges, if I got $1, I got 1,000 won. If I got to buy something in South Korea that's worth 100,000 won, I'm only spending $100. That's how value of currency exchanges. Now, when that changes and 100 won is worth $100, that means that that item that was once worth $100,000, 100,000 won for $100 is now worth 100,000 won, 1,000 US dollars, which means now my money is worth less in that country. Appreciation and value of currency. This is one of the reasons why I told you guys before, when you're dealing with currency exchanges, go get you bank accounts in other countries. Because yeah, interest rates are going to be different, but the value of the currency is going to be different, and you're going to pay a fee to convert your money from US dollars to whatever country you're going to. So why not build up your wealth first and then double back and look at the financial profits that you're making in that currency. Then when you go to that country to live on a vacation or visit for a little bit of while or do a business over there, you've got money in their currency. So instead of being robbed by the United States government because you flew over there with $10,000, because some countries like Dubai say that you got to go over there with a stack of cash or they ain't taking your ass. Now, with that being said, if you fly over there and you don't have enough money, they might send you back. So if you flying over there, instead of flying over there with $40,000 or $50,000 so that the U.S. government can rob you at the airport, you want to be able to fly over there with maybe $1,000 or $2,000 in a cashier, open up a bank account, and then when you got the bank account open, wire transfer the money over there. And then when you wire transfer the money over there, you can just fly over there and withdraw the money from their bank account, where you don't have to deal with being robbed by the U.S. government, because the U.S. government will rob. I ain't gonna lie. People gonna say, don't tell me that. They'll get you, boy. They'll get you. They'll put you. They'll put you in a compromising position and then say it's your fault. You gotta understand they have a tough job. I'm not trying to hear that. I'm not trying to hear that. Now, when we start getting into the how does this affect interest? When investors are trying to get assets, they're expecting to have an appreciation of those assets over time. And as part of that, their financial strategy is based upon putting up a certain quantity of money now, knowing that they're going to get a larger quantity of money back in return. Appreciating assets can contribute to significant wealth, where the accumulation of financial security from the increase of appreciation of assets in stocks, bonds, mutualities, Bitcoin, currency exchange, real estate will allow you to maximize and magnify your assets and your estate, your company's estate, your trust estate, so that your trust can give you as a beneficiary all of this extra money. So being able to assess the values of appreciation and then also understanding depreciation, you're able to maintain crucial market information that allows investors to make wise decision-making assessments, where their potential returns can always be more positive than negative, because a portfolio is not 100% successful. A portfolio is like a fantasy football roster. Some of your picks might be winners and some of your picks might be losers, but the overall team always wins. That is when you have a successful portfolio. Some of your stocks, some of your bonds, some of your cryptocurrency exchanges, some of your NFTs, I don't know why you're still using NFTs, but some of your NFTs make money. Most of them don't. Then you're going to be down all the way around. If some of your money is making money and some of your money is losing money, but the average between the two is more, your portfolio is positive. If some of your money is making money and more money is losing money than making money, then your portfolio is failing. How do you get a successful portfolio? You have to invest in more appreciative stocks, more appreciative bonds, higher interest bearing accounts that will pay you back larger dividends over time. Then you also have to offset, because there is this thing called advertisement that is not necessarily false advertisement, but really and truly it's false advertisement. They will tell you, oh, if you join my membership and pay $10 or $15 a month, I'll give you 5% interest. But when you look at the amount of money that you're paying every month on the membership and you subtract that value from the amount of interest that you made on the product, you are not getting 5% interest. You are actually getting 1 or 2% interest or 0.64% interest. But guess what's going to happen to you? Because they're claiming that you made all of this extra money in interest, Uncle Sam is going to tax you on the 5% interest that they claim that you made after you paid the membership fee to qualify for that interest rate. So if you made up $500 of interest, but you paid $400 to get the $500, you only made $100, but they're going to report to the IRS that you made $500. The IRS is going to tax you almost 20% on the $500. So now they're going to take $100 from you in taxes because you made $500, and then you already wasted $400 to get the $500. So how much money did you really make? Zero. This is what we're saying. You have to pay attention to the appreciation of value versus the depreciation of your investment. Not a lot of people pay attention to these things. This is a very important scenario. look at the fact that value depreciation, this is going to refer to specifically the decrease in value of an asset over time. Like when you buy a vehicle, as soon as you drive it off the lot, it's worth 50 to 75% of the value of it was before you started the car. People are encouraged to go and buy a certified pre-owned vehicle, and the reason why they're encouraged to buy a certified pre-owned vehicle is because a certified pre-owned vehicle is required to meet all of the expectations of a brand new vehicle, but the value has been depreciated because it already has a former owner. So your $50,000 vehicle might be $35,000 now because it's technically it's used. Your $20,000 Honda Civic might be a $15,000 Honda Civic because technically it's used. But it still only has $3,000 to $5,000 worth of miles on it. You have some dealerships that give loaner vehicles, which are brand new vehicles that they let people drive. Those brand new vehicles might have 3,000 to 5,000 miles on them. You have test drive vehicles. Those test drive vehicles might have 2,000 to 3,000 miles on it, 5,000 or 10,000 miles on it. Certified pre-owned vehicle. Instead of you getting it brand new with 0 miles on it, you might get it somewhat new with a few miles on it, but you're getting far less of a cost. Then one of the things that you get, because it's used, they will give you a more extended warranty package. They're still going to give you the bumper to bumper. They're still going to cover the whole drivetrain. They're going to cover everything on the vehicle. But now, instead of you getting a 3-year, because they expected the break in 3 years, instead of them giving you a 3-year, they might give you a 5-year. Instead of giving you a 30 to 60,000 mile drivetrain, they might 125,000 miles. Why would they do that? Because it's already been written halfway into the ground before you got your hands on it. So now they want to make sure that you're satisfied with the vehicle. If something breaks, they'll fix it. But you go get you a brand new one, fresh off the lot, you're paying the inflated value. The same way individuals who are buying a brand new Cybertruck right now for $105,000, the only reason why they can resell them for the $450,000 and $500,000 is because there's other rich people that want it today and don't want to put their money up and wait 30 days for it to be delivered to their house. But the more people who get the truck and then resell it, even though there's a no resale clause in the reservation, those people get the truck, pay an extra $125,000 and try to get their money back off of the truck because they don't want the truck. Truck isn't satisfactory. You got some people who buy the truck, never drive it, and just put it back up for sale. I would get the truck and I put that truck on Turbo Trader or whatever that used car dealership, not the used car dealership, the rental car company is, where people put their personal vehicles up for rent, and people rent those vehicles the same way they rent from Enterprise or Budget or somebody like that, and just rent your own personal vehicle out. That's what I would have done with it. If I don't want, I buy it. It's ugly. I don't like it. I just do that because that makes more sense. buy it and rent it out. You know, those people that are on the Cybertruck registry, when they do put out the auto cab thing, and they say they're supposed to put it out in 2026, which is 2 years from now, or well, really like a year and 4 months from now. But if they put that vehicle up, if you're still on the Cybertruck registry where you haven't cashed in on your Cybertruck yet, they might send you a promo and say, hey, we'll give you discounts on this car if you cash in your position in line for the Cybertruck. And we'll take the $100 reservation fee and apply it to that car. That car's $30,000. The Cybertruck's $125,000. Would I cash in? Because they're going to take $7,500 off for the energy efficient tax deduction, but they're going to apply it to the cost of the car. So you got a $30,000 car. They're probably going to tax you like $5,000 or $10,000 on it, because usually they do between 8 and 10% taxes on most items, depending on what state you're in. And then you're probably going to look at like an extra, because $8,000 for every $10,000 is going to be like $24,000, right? Do the math for me, y'all. And then, which means that your $30,000 vehicle might be closer to $50,000, but they're going to take $7,500 off first. Then, if Tesla says, well, you're part of our Cybertruck waiting list, we're going to give you another discount. We might take another 10% off. We might take take $3,000 off of that $30,000. So, we're going to take basically $10,500 off the price of the car. So instead of it being like $30,000 plus taxes, it might be like $20,000 plus taxes. See what I'm saying? Which will kind of put you right up there at like maybe $22,000 that you'd have to pay for the car. But if you can get a car that drives itself for $22,000 instead of getting a Cybertruck for $125,000 that doesn't drive itself, you could buy 4 of them motherfuckers and then be able to start up a freaking taxi cab company. Be like that cab company that I think it was New York that had a parking lot full of self-driving cars that were parking themselves all night long, waking up the neighbors. Bro, that's a self. Anybody who's thinking about it right now, bro, get 150 grand, go buy like 5 of those bad boys at $25,000-$30,000 a piece. Start up if you can't get on Uber with your self-driving car, jump in and get into some of those rental car companies where you subcontract with them. They're going to take a little bit out. You're going to get the rest. Usually when you do it with these companies, they get like 40%. You get the other 60%. You put your vehicle up. The people are going to use the vehicle. The vehicle comes back. You might have to clean it out every now and again. They're going to probably charge the customer for that, but you're making a 60% profit on self-driving cars. You got 5 self-driving cars out there making that $40,000 to $50,000 per Uber car, because the average person that works for Uber makes between $30,000 to $50,000 a year, depending on their 55 hours of work or not. If you had 6 cars doing that while you were asleep, bro, you're making a few $100,000 a year. You could take the money, you could take the profits off of the car, pay the car off quicker. You could take the value of those vehicles and use those vehicles as collateral to go and get you a business where you can charge the cars off site so that you're not charging them at your house. You can get a contract with the government where they'll pay you a bunch of money to have a rideshare company pick up all of their executives and bring them to and from the airport. There's all kinds of things that you can do with startup ideas like that, where if you have enough money going into this business, where if you pick up a few of them Teslas, hey, you're good, because you ain't got to wait on nobody. All you have to deal with is vehicle maintenance. Only thing I know is that because the charge time is like 6 to 8 hours, 8 to 10, 12 hours, unless you have fast chargers, you're thinking about using one car every 8 to 12 hours. So you might have 3 cars a day. And the reason why you would have 3 cars a day is so that no one car ever runs out of power while the customer is still using it. You put it out there on the road, let it do an 8-hour shift, let it come back, send another car out. You're charging the first car, checking it for maintenance, clean it out, everything like that. While the second car is out, when the second car comes back, send a third car out. While the second car is back, the first car is ready to go. The third car is out making money overnight. When the third car comes back in the morning, you send the first car out. That way you are working 24 hours a day, and that's just 3 cars. What I told you to get, 5? That means you got 2 cars out there at a time. All day, every day. You double that down, and you got 10 cars on your payroll, and you're putting up 3 cars at a time, and you're rotating them out. If one breaks down, you still got room, because if one breaks down, you got one getting maintenance while the other 2 are in rotation. That's why I said get 3 a day. Because if one break, you got 2 others in rotation. If one gets into a car crash, you still got 2 others in rotation. That's why I told you to do 5. If I tell you do 5, you're using 3 at a time. If one of them needs to be fixed, you could set it aside and set out number 4. You can set it aside, set out number 5. Fix that one, put it back on the road. Your income will not depreciate because you're using 3/5 of your resources to make 100% of your profit. Well, you got 2/5 of your resources in reserve. Your business will continue to scale up. Because as demand happens for your product, you can put out a 4th car, you can put out a 5th car, make extra money, buy 2 more cars. And now, if you're going to get a loan, instead of you getting a car loan for the car, you actually instead go and get a cash loan. And cash loans, based on assets that are being incurred, working capital loans. This is what they're really called, working capital loans. This is going to be the amount of money that you're making every month. You're going to go to somebody and say, hey, put a lien on my business. Basically, put a lien on my money, on my income that's coming in, and then front me some cash. I'm going to give you that cash with interest back, which is basically advancing me money. If I'm making $100,000 a year and I ask you for $25,000 or $30,000, you might tell me yeah to that, where I'm going to pay you back $40,000 to $50,000 over the course of 2 years. Cash advance, basically, but it's a working capital loan. That's not going to come with a background check. That's not going to come with a credit check. That's not going to come with anything other than you can see that I am depositing $25,000 or $30,000 a month every month. I want to pay you $5,000 a month for the next 2 years to pay back the $30,000 that you gave me. Now I can take that $30,000, go to Tesla, buy a brand new car, cash up front. Take that car, put it on the road, expand on the business. That is called expanding your business. Now, all of this leads to the discussion of appreciation. When you're accounting for depreciation, you have to pay attention that it is the systematic reduction in the recorded cost and of a fixed asset over its life. And that's going to be like, when they get a Dodge, you buy a truck. Trucks maintain value because, people always need a truck. But go get you a Ford Focus. Brand new Ford Focus might be $15,000, $20,000. Used Ford Focus, $10,000. 5-year-old used Ford Focus, $5,000. Massive reduction in value of that Ford Focus from the time that it was originally sold to the time that you're trying to resell it. Why? Nobody wants it. So the value is reported as less valuable because less people want it, because of the amount of miles on it, the condition that it's in, and what also impacts depreciation, a new model. We get that with the cell phones. Look at the Samsung S23. 6 months later, they put out the S24. The value of the S23 dropped like that. It went from a $1,500 phone to an $800 phone because the S24 was released as a $1,500 phone. So the value of the S23 that was 6 months old is now half the value because nobody wants it. Less people want it. But the people will buy the S23 who can't afford the S24 because the S23 is cheaper. But the S22 is no longer sold, which means that they're only going to be able to get access to a used S22. So how much is the S22 for? $400. Why? Half the price of the S23. Because the S23 still got value. It's brand new. It's just that the S24 is more desirable because it's even newer. So a newer model of the same model causes the current model to depreciate in value. One of the reasons why they had that argument where Tesla's vehicles, electric cars, were depreciating in value too rapidly because they kept making newer models of electric cars and nobody was buying the other ones. If you look online right now at the value of a used Teslas used now are like $50,000, $45,000. And I'm not talking about 10,000 miles. I'm not talking about like 15, 20,000 miles. I'm talking about used Teslas that got 100,000 miles on them, 85, 75,000 miles on them, 55,000 miles on them, is being sold at 50 grand. Do you know, food for thought, that the lifespan of most batteries are 100,000 miles? Some of them not even. So when you're looking at an electric car, where the maximum lifespan of that car is usually 10 to 20 years and up to about 100,000 total miles. Some of them 200,000 total miles. If your car is at 75 or 80,000 miles, it's at 70% of the lifespan of the battery. And then you're looking at the electric battery is $10, $20, $30,000 to replace. But you're going to spend $45,000 or $50,000 to buy the car so that you can hold on to the car for 35,000 miles if you don't get into a car crash, and then have to spend $10,000 more to replace the motor. You're still making payments on the car. Now, wouldn't that be a depreciative value? You're not wasting money on a car like that unless you're making profits off of it. So we're going to talk about real quick before we start talking about making profits off our depreciative value. We're going to talk about real quick the types of depreciative value we have. Straight line depreciation is the simplest method where an equal amount is deducted from the asset's value each year. The formula dictates the annual depreciative value of the vehicle is the cost of the asset minus salvage value, useful lifespan. Then you're going to have, so which is going to be like the cost, how much it costs versus the amount that you've not utilized over the total lifespan of the car. Then you have your annual depreciation, which is the lifespan of the asset over the cost of the asset minus the salvage value, which is basically the inverse or the derivative of the former. Now, whoo, that got me. Excuse me. Now, the other one is going to be so the first model that I'm explaining to you, that one is a standard value of depreciation. So say, for example, if you bought something and it depreciated in value 10% every year, then that means that the depreciated value is going to be 10% every year. So if it's $100,000 and it's depreciating value 10%, that means it's going to depreciate $10,000 this year, $9,000 next year, $8,000. See what I'm saying? Because it's 10% depreciation. A declining balance method is another form of depreciation. That is going to be an accelerated depreciation method where a higher percentage is applied to the blue book value each year. This is typically applied to vehicles. This method reflects the assets often lose more value in their earlier years. And this is usually what happens when you buy a vehicle off the lot, brand new, and the vehicle is immediately valued at 70% of what you paid for it. 70% of the contract you signed in the office. When you walk out of the car, walk out of the dealership, put the key in the car, or now push the button and then drive off the lot and make the block. By the time you made the block, your car was worth 30% less. Depreciative value. A double declining balance is a form of accelerated depreciation that doubles the straight line rate, allowing for larger deductions in years of an asset. Now, that is going, the deductions is going to be credit balance, is going to be credit deductions that you're going to be getting on your taxes. But that is going to also give you another calculation where you're able to look at, well, it's declining twice as fast. So instead of just having a normal like 10% decline, it's got an actual 30% a year decline. So it's going to be valued at this much this year. It's going to be valued at 30% less. So it's going to go from being 100% to 70%. Next year, it's going to go from being 70% to 40%. It's going to go from being 40% to 10%, and then it's going to be worth nothing. You get deductions on that every year. Now, when we're dealing with accounting, your financial reporting, you're going to be looking at your depreciations, which affects both the balance sheets and income statements by reducing the blue book value of the asset and recognizing the expenses over a period of time. Now, the tax implications on this is going to help your business because businesses can deduct depreciations as an expense because you no longer can get that money back as a value. That's a loss. Any depreciation of value of an asset is a deduction or a loss, which of income because you can't make that money back, which means that you can then get that as a lowering taxable income and a tax liability. So by lowering your taxable income and tax liability, you're able to not have to pay Uncle Sam as much money. So when you decide to go, you create a business, you work for the company, you go to lunch, have a business meeting. That lunch is a tax deduction. You're not working, you're not doing business. You're going to hang out with this chick because she's cute. You buy her lunch. That is not tax deductible. You just wasted money. That's a liability. You're networking with an individual to perform a business transaction, that is a business transaction that is tax deductible. That entire engagement. Now, what if that engagement happens in Italy? The cost to get there, the room and board, all of that tax deductible, which means that you ideally don't have to pay to go out there. You don't have to pay to eat while you're out there. And certain things that you buy can be tax deductible because work uniforms are tax deductible. So if a three-piece suit is a work uniform, it is ideally considered tax deductible within reason, because there are some things that are not tax deductible. Now, remember, I had Joe, the CPA, that was on here last week, Wednesday, that was talking about taxes and other such. If you wanted to know if something was tax deductible, go on and talking to my boy Joe, and he could give you all of the insight and knowledge about that, where you would be able to know if the purchase I'm about to make is going to benefit or negatively impact my ability to be successful with my taxes. He could potentially show you where to go to find all of the tax deductible purchases that a business can utilize, and the percentage of deductions, because not everything is 100% deductible. Per diems are sometimes 50%, sometimes 25%, sometimes 70%. They have some conditional 100% where it has to be made accessible to the public. Even if you get it isolated for the faculty, it is supposed to be ideally made accessible to the public in order for it to be a tax write-off. Here's one thing that I noted that's very entertaining. We deal with this situation as individuals for the bottom 99% that doesn't pay attention to things. We throw a birthday party for ourselves. We spend a bunch of money so that we can invite a bunch of people that we know to hang out and eat our food and drink our drinks. They're not even valuing us as a person, really, when we're throwing our own birthday party. If I host my own birthday party, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you this right now. If I host my own birthday party where I pay for my own birthday party, I'm buying the balloons and streamers, my friends are helping me set it up, I'm buying the food and the drinks, I'm paying for the catering for people to come over and participate in the birthday party. And everybody comes over, they're eating the food, they're drinking the drinks, they might sing me happy birthday. Then when they leave and I got to clean up behind everybody because this is my house, that is not an asset. That's a liability. And guess what? It's also not tax deductible. But if you had a business social event where you instead of just inviting all of your broke friends to come and take shots with you, if you instead hosted a business event where you invited all of the people in your, or as many people as you can find that are inside of your field of employment or the business that you're trying to do with the niche that you're in, invited them over to whatever event location that you have, whether it's your house, whether it's an office building or something like that you rented, and you invite people to come over, you can still celebrate your birthday with successful people. Exchange contacts with those successful people. Potentially develop new business partners with those successful people. And then guess what? That's a business event. So now your birthday party is tax deductible. That is an asset. If it's a tax deduction where you don't got to pay Uncle Sam, that's an asset. If it can increase in value where you can get more money back than what you put in, that's an asset. If it saves you money without you having to spend more money to save money, that's an asset. Because 20% off if you spend more than $100 when you was originally only trying to buy one thing for $50, that's not a benefit. They're encouraging you to spend more money so that you can get the deduction. I actually had to experience that one time before. I was trying to buy something from Walmart. I think it only cost me like $10 or $15. They were going to charge me $6 extra or $7 extra, which is not a lot of money. But they said they were going to charge me that $7 extra if I did not make a minimum of $35 purchase. So do I just buy the one thing that I want and give them an extra $7, or do I find $35 worth of stuff that I need and buy the $35 worth of stuff that I need? I actually found $50 worth of stuff that I need, and I bought all of the things that I needed and did not have to pay that $7. And now I can prolong the next time I make a purchase because I bought in bulk to offset the fact that they were charging me so much money for the one transaction that I was trying to buy. Which, by the way, because we're getting towards the end of Q4, we're halfway through Q4 because Q4 started in October. November is Q4. December is the end of Q4. And if you don't spend as much money as you're going to spend to offset your taxes for January, you got to make your last purchase by December 31st before the end of business day of 2024. And then that will be included on your tax deductions for 2025 when you're filling out your taxes for the 2024 year. So whatever purchases you got to make, you buy more stuff now, especially during Black Friday and Cyber Tuesday. You buy more stuff now in bulk, because when you buy in bulk, they give you massive discounts. So buy like cases of paper, cases for ink cartridges, school supplies for the kids, whatever you got to do, buy it all into the business day, and then claim that as assets and materials for the business. Write all that stuff off, get you a massive discount, get either not have to pay money, or if you're a W-2 employee and your business tax is funneling through your W-2 withdrawals, get you some money back. One way or another, you're making money make money for you. Now you got a whole year's worth of resources that you don't have to go out and buy because you bought it in December or November. You just got to hold it, put it somewhere good so that you don't have to deal with floods in the building or anything like that messes up all your resources. Which, if you do have something like that, for those people who went through Milton, that's a tax write-off. That's a loss from a disaster, which is also a tax write-off. So any resources that you lose because of natural disasters is a tax write-off. But this is one of the reasons why rich people go and buy Bugattis and stuff like that, because, I mean, you got to buy something expensive so that you don't have to pay $200,000 to the U.S. government. But if you're making $2-3 million, it's easy to buy a $200,000 car. If you're making $50,000, it's not easy to buy a $50,000 car. Just got to think about that. Asset management. That's what we're talking about right here. You have to understand the depreciation that helps the business plan for asset replacement and maintain accurate financial records in order for these depreciations and appreciations to benefit you. The loans that I was talking to you about in yesterday's show, when you're dealing with an individual that borrows money and actually borrows money under high interest rates. You always have to check out the interest rates. You're borrowing money under high interest rates. You're making long-term payments, which means that you're going to pay tons of money on the principal, which is far more than what you borrowed. Instead of doing that, you want to get something right now so that you can take care of it right now. You might have 1 or 2 payments on that particular interest rate. Then you want to refinance that by paying off that loan in its entirety and getting you a smaller valued loan, or the same kind of loan with a smaller interest rate, so you no longer owe this much money. And if you're doing that towards transactions that are going to be applied to either your personal credit or your business credit, preferably your business credit over your personal credit, then every positively paid transaction then shows positive good standings on the 3 major credit bureaus that will be utilized when, well, they're not actually bureaus, they're agencies, the 3 major credit agencies that actually, because there's only 1 credit bureau, but the 3 reporting credit agencies will then take those assets, those reports, combine them together and tell other people that you want to visit you can be trusted. And that's what you want. You want more people to trust you to do business. Now, when you're leveraging appreciation, that's going to be one more thing that we wanted to talk about today, was leveraging appreciation. When you're dealing with leveraging appreciation is when you have a strategy that you are using borrowed capital, which is considered a debt, to invest in an asset that is supposed to be giving you back revenue, and allowing investors to benefit from the appreciation of that asset without having to pay the full purchase price up front. How this works: if I wanted to buy a Bitcoin and I'm able to get 80% back on the Bitcoin, I might tell each person that gives me money for the Bitcoin that I'll give them 5%, or I might give them 10%. And I try to give a bunch of different people to give me that percentage value. where I take their money and put it into the stock market. Clearly, you got to have licenses and certifications to start investing for other people. But I'm just saying, hypothetically, for the situation that we're talking about, they gave me money. I put their money with my money, and I put this money up. And now the values of Bitcoin is turning back 8% or more. I guaranteed them 8% for the value that they gave me. 8% of what they gave me. I'm not giving them 8% of the value of the Bitcoin. I'm giving them 8% back on the amount that they gave me. But if I'm guaranteed to get back 80%, if 100% of the Bitcoin was given to me from somebody else, and out of 100% of the Bitcoin that was given to me, I'm giving back 8% of the value to all of the people that invested. Guess what I get to keep? The other 72%. This is how big businesses, this is how they do with the land trust. This is what they're doing with commercial real estate. They'll offer a smaller percentage yield for each one of the investors to invest in a massive real estate transaction, where the overhead of that transaction is millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars in some situations. The investors might all split $50,000 or might all split $250,000. And the primary person that's doing a deal might get the other $375,000 or $750,000. But they didn't put any money down up front. The investors put all the money down. Each one of the investors was promised a percentage increase on their investment, not a percentage of the total amount. And that's something that you got to pay attention to when you're doing proper leveraging. So how you're going to do this? You're using debt to acquire assets. So investors can purchase properties other than assets by making other than some other assets. You're going to make a small down payment. You should call the holding cost. You put that small down payment down on there. Then you're going to get there, finance it. You're financing the remaining portion of the loan. When you finance the remaining portion of the loan, then you're going to end up with a property that's worth, $500,000 and only requiring a $25,000 down payment, which is around about $125,000, with the rest financed through a mortgage. Now, you can actually get you can get a few people to put their money together and give you the $125,000. You can promise those people that you'll give them like a 10% return on their investment. If, say, each person that gave you $25,000 was supposed to get back 10% return, each person is supposed to get back $2,500 a person. How many people are giving you money if you got $125,000? 5 people, right? So if you're getting $2,500 a person back, how much money are you giving back? Do the math. Oh, 2,500 times 5, you're looking at $7,500 of money you're giving back. So out of $125,000 that they gave you, you're giving back almost $133,000. Is another $200,000 of profit. You only had to give back $10,000 more than what you asked for, and you're able to walk away with the other 300-something thousand, which you can use to reinvest in other assets. That is how you're able to get that. You want to realize your gains. As the property appreciates in value, the investors benefits from the increase in value of the entire asset, not just the initial investment. For instance, when you're dealing with a property that appreciates in 6% interest on something that's like $30,000, when you get that kind of gain on the $500,000, you actually have a total $530,000 because you're experiencing the appreciation of the property and the 6% appreciation and the $30,000 gain, which means that you can actually have a significant return on the initial cash investment because the amount of money that you put up was so insignificant or grand. And you're going to break everybody else off on their percentage, but you get to keep the additional, everything on the overhead. Now, good business and really and truly any transaction that you do in life, whether you're loaning money to a friend, borrowing money from a friend, whether you're doing stuff for actual business, dealing with your kids, your ROI is important. The return on investment requires you to be able to calculate and compare the appreciation gain, if any, to the cash investment, and then look at the difference between the resulting payout. So if you're dealing with that previous example that I gave you with the $125,000 up front, $30,000 appreciated value, your ROI would be a 24% because you would get back $30,000 on your $125,000 investment. But I mean, if somebody else was putting up the $125,000, they would be dividing up the $30,000 increase on investment. But that is when you're dealing with depreciation investments. When you're dealing with the benefits of leveraging appreciative values, you're going to be looking at higher potential returns. So by using leverage, you're able to, as an investor, apply those returns on investments when asset values rise. So diversification is going to allow your leveraging to, for being an investor, to spread the capital across multiple properties or investments rather than just trying it all in one asset. So diversification is what we're calling a portfolio. So you might have small stocks, penny stocks, index 500 stocks, government bonds, government debt bonds, Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies, all collaborated together, real estate, interest-bearing whole life insurance policies. All of these things put together turns into money gained versus money lost. If more money is gained over a larger diversified portfolio, if one thing dips where everything else is going up, you're still in the green. You're still doing good. If things start looking bad, you start going into the red. You don't want to do that. Now you're looking at access to larger investments where investors can acquire more expensive assets than they could afford outright, which means that potentially you're going to be experiencing greater profits. So if you bought Bitcoin when Bitcoin was cheaper, when Bitcoin becomes more expensive, you can sell a more expensive Bitcoin. Then if you hold that cash, when Bitcoin depreciates in value, you go back and buy a Bitcoin. The amount that if the Bitcoin that's being sold when you buy back in is half the value of the Bitcoin that you sold, now you can buy twice as many Bitcoins. And when the value increases again, now you have two Bitcoins that are increasing in value versus the previous time you attempted. Your original investment was the ability to afford one Bitcoin. That's how that is explained. Now, when the risks of leveraging, you're going to be dealing with volatility. So if a property value declines, you're going to experience depreciation. The leveraged investors may focus significantly on losses since they still owe money to the loan or any investor. But you also have to take into account that you might have increased financial obligations. You're going to deal with higher debt level and increased financial risk of rental income if you're using real estate, or asset values fall. This means that certain situations, like you got to pay for HOA, you've held the property too long, now you got to pay for property taxes. The value of the car is not as high as it used to be. You could be dealing with the fact that now the car is damaged. The value of the car is not worth as much as it used to be, or it broke and now it's not valuable anymore because it doesn't work anymore. Things to that effect. Like if you had a portrait or an art exhibit, now it's damaged. The value is no longer there. Collateral damage happens everywhere, no matter what you're dealing with, and you have to be able to prepare for and recognize the financial loss. When you prepare for and recognize the financial loss and you're able to overcome that, the way Elon Musk overcame the ineffective productivity of the Cybertruck, because he's not putting out almost 250,000 of them a year. He's only putting out 6,000 a year. So he's not meeting productivity projections, but he overcame that by putting out another product that everybody's going to want. Two products, really, because he put out the robots and he put out the self-driving cars. All of this is able to offset his failure to produce the trucks at a reasonable rate. But the increased financial obligation of building the Gigatech company, the increased obligation of building these other products, caused him to lose value in some of his assets, and then the value of some of his assets fell, which is why he wasn't able to turn out the profits to pay the shareholders. But by promising shareholders increased profits down the line, they waited and got their money on the back end when new products sold and offset, because they're not getting paid off of one item. They're getting paid off the total positive overhead of the business, or not overhead. The overhead is debt. The overhead is a liability. The overhead is an expense. They're actually getting paid up the profits in addition to the overhead. Anything above the overhead, they're benefiting off of the increase in profits over the overhead. Now, your cash flow management, probably one of the last things I'm going to be talking about today. The cash flow management. When you are investing in something, you want to ensure that your cash flow from anything, rental incomes, stock market investments, anything like that, exceeds your loan payments and other expenses. Otherwise, you risk defaulting on those loans. One of the things you want to pay attention to, if you buy a house, you have to be able to cover the cost of the house, the HOA payments, and the taxes on the house. You don't want to lose out on the cost of the house or anything related to the house simply because you are getting the house at 80% of your income. Typically, the best real quick, Bricko Mode jumped in. I wanted to give you a shout out because I didn't see because I had a third screen on. Lucas was in there. And then also I told you guys Fireball was going to dive in there. So I want to give you guys a shout out real quick because I know you guys were in there about 10 minutes ago jumping in the comment section. But I was going through a list of all of the information, so I kind of missed out on that. And but I did see you guys come into the comment section. So big shout out to Bricko Mode. Big shout out to T Fireball and Lucas the Poser for jumping into the comment section real quick. But I really want to get in on the fact that if you are doing a assessment, it is always good for you to start off with a 33%, which means that you're making times more than what it costs to buy that item. They typically do that with rental properties. They typically say that your earned income must be 3 times the value of the rent in order to rent the property. One of the reasons why they do that is that you guarantee that you can afford to pay it if it's 1/3 of your expenses. If it's 90% of your expenses and something happens and you don't make enough money on your job, you don't have enough expenses, and then you don't have enough money, and then you sometimes sacrifice. And sometimes when you sacrifice, you end up losing out on your rent money. You end up being late, you behind on your payments. They're going to charge you interest. The interest is going to cost you more money. And because the interest costs you more money, now you're at 120%. Which means that you're underwater now. You're not able to afford to pay for your debt, which means that unless you find a way to consolidate, you're going to end up defaulting on your loan, defaulting on your mortgage, and having things repossessed and having to file bankruptcy to do collateral damage. And that's not a good look. So they encourage you to try to be less than 50% of the income that you're bringing in before you start buying or financing things. With that being said, when I start telling you guys about buying stuff, like you save up enough money and then you take like when Bricko Mode went and bought the skateboard set, fantastic, chase your dreams. But if you spent $350 on a skateboard set and then took the other $750 and invested into stocks, bonds, and real estate, the interest from the $700 could have gave you extra money to buy you another skateboard and still have $750 in the bank. However, you took the you got and you spent it. Once you spent it, you didn't have enough money to buy another one. Well, you still have 750, but once you spend that, the money is gone. If you take the money and invest it, buy the things that you need up to about 40 or 50%, take the rest of the 60%, invest it. Let that continue to build interest, let that continue to build money. And then when you make more money, you buy 40 to 60%, 30 to 40%, 50% at the most of what you need, and then take the other 60% and invest it. If you do that every month, where you're living at 40% of the income that you're bringing in, you can build more wealth faster, because $600 out of every $1,000 that you make every year is going to be $6,000 in 10 months. It's $60,000 in 10 years. Well, not 10 years. It's $60,000 in 100 months. But if you're getting a 20% return on that from high interest banking, or 10% return on that, which is the average market average after inflation. That means that you're getting $6,000 additional to the $60,000 of investment every year, which means that at some point you're going to be getting a payment back of about $40,000 or $60,000 a year, which is equivalent to about $3,000 to $5,000 a month. So putting the money up there and letting the money build is the best way for you to get back the amount of money that you're putting in, so that you can utilize that as a residual asset. Also, having that capital sit there that you can access gives you the ability to borrow from somebody else. So you don't have to buy stuff cash up front yourself. You can borrow cash from somebody and then put the cash on your purchase so that you own the item. You have ownership of the item and the cash debt is separate. Then you can take interest payments and pay off your loan, where your loan is now covered and the asset is free and clear. Something happens where the stocks and bonds default, the loan defaults, the stocks wash out the loans, you no longer have a debt. Same thing with real estate. You have a property that you don't own, or that you don't use as collateral. The collateral goes towards a loan. The loan provides you with cash. The cash gives you a deal. The deal is supposed to turn you a profit. If the deal fails, the house goes to the loan, but that was a house you wasn't using anyway, so you still are not at a loss. Technically, you're at a loss because you lost the house, but that's you're covering you're leveraging your assets for additional capital, and that's one of the ways that you leverage your capital or your assets for additional capital, so that you can utilize those capitals invested into positive returns without having to put up upfront capital. Now, one of the things that people don't talk about in some of these business deals and way back in the day and stuff to that effect is that you got to start somewhere. You either got to have assets that you can leverage. You've got to have good credit that you can leverage. You have to have good payment history that you can leverage, or you've got to have a cosigner with some of, if not all of these things, where you can leverage that, so that you can start borrowing the money, so that you can use the money that you borrowed to go and pay for stuff, so that the stuff that you pay for is free and clear, so that you can take the stuff that you paid for and utilize that as leverage to get some more money. So whenever you make a purchase, you want to make sure that you're buying something that has a monetary value that you can then rent out and get a profit back on a regular basis, or sell out to get a profit, a one-time big profit. And that cost is supposed to be less than the return from the sale. That is your ROI, the return on investment. And if you're dealing with a positive return, the difference between a valuable ROI and a non-valuable ROI is if you're putting in more effort for the return than the monetary value. And some people gauge it as like, oh, I'm gonna make X number of dollars per hour because I have to put in this many hours in order for me to get this quantity of money. But really and truly, because time is a non-renewable source, if you've got to put a lot of hard work into something, even if you're making a few $100s on top of what you paid in, your effort per hour is far more significant than the money that you're making back, which means your ROI, though it's positive, is still not beneficial. And long and the short is that if you got to work yourself to the bone so that you can go and get you some money so that you can buy this thing where you're going to be putting a lot of effort into this thing, making you a little bit of money, you're not making a logical or rational investment, because you are wasting money that's going to force you to waste time, that is going to lead you to not making money. And then you're going to have more debt than you have money. This is one of the things that I tell you guys on a regular basis, is to make it make sense. Make money for you. And if it's not making sense and you're not making money make money for you, that's when you've got to reassess your situation. You have to look at your cash flow. You don't want to buy you $1 million house because you got $1,002. You want to buy you a $300,000 house because you got $1,002. That way, you've got $750,000 that you can put somewhere else. You want to be able to keep making money make money for you. So you don't want to, just because you've got $100, you don't want to spend $100. You want to spend $20. That way, out of that $100, you still got $80 left. If that $80 can give you $8 back on a regular basis, by the time you need to spend another $20, you've got 24. But if every time you get $100, you spend 90 and you don't even invest the 10, you hold the 10 until you need that 10, you're never turning a profit on your money. You are literally working to make your money. And that doesn't make sense, because the day that you can't show up, the day that you can't produce, is the day that you don't make money. But the day that you start putting your money in places where your money is making money for you, you can go to sleep, you can go on vacation, and when you come back and check your money, there's more money there than what you started with. The same way enough hens in a hen house, you got more chicks laying eggs than you're collecting eggs. So you might have started with 100 chickens, but when you come back to check on these some guns, now you got 200 chickens, because there's more chickens being made from the chickens that are not being used than the chickens that you would have had if you would have used each chicken for dinner. Now, all I'm trying to say is don't put all your eggs in one basket, and make sure that you don't use all of your chickens at one time, that you leave 60% of them there, cook 40% of them, and let that 60% grow so that that 60% turns into 160% every time. If you're 5%, if you're spending 3% of the 5% interest that you're making, you're still making a 2% increase every year. If you're spending 6% of the 10% interest that you're making, you're still making a 4% interest every year, which means that you're still on an increase, which means your principal is still continuing to increase. But if you're spending 11% of the 10% that you make, you're spending 1% more than what you make. The difference between appreciation and depreciation, the difference between the increase in values versus the decrease in values, is how much more money you're walking away with before you started. And if you're walking away with less than what you started, you being able to shrug your shoulders and say, well, at least I had fun. Waste. Well, at least I got something out of the deal. Waste. When you're able to say, man, I'm able to walk away with X, Y, and Z, I can take that and I can go invest in this over here. Benefit. I got a tax write-off now. I don't have to give X, Y, and Z to the government now. Benefit. Now I'm able to leverage this capital towards this other capital. Benefit. But if at any point in time, whatever it is that you're trying to buy is just I'm gonna buy it right now. It's called an impulse buy. I'm gonna buy it right now. It works for me. I like it. It's cute. It looks cool for the dudes. But then it's mostly gonna sit up and collect dust, like a home fitness center for people who like to work out, that you only put your laundry on, but you don't actually use it to work out. Waste of money. But a home fitness center that you put at your house, and then you rent your living room out to your neighbors because they don't have the ability to get to the gym, and now they're paying you $20 a person to come to your house and work out on your workout equipment. Profit. And you're actually able to do a risk assessment. How many people has to come to your house and use your equipment before your equipment pays for itself? But if it's supposed to be allegedly for you and you're not using it, it's a waste. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to let you guys tiptoe up out of here, because we had to do a lot of discussion about how we're going to manage and save and build up this money. We got some stuff that we're going to be talking about tomorrow with this money. I want to make sure that we touch base with it. So I just kind of wanted to get you guys queued up, because you got to know some of the fundamental stuff. You got to know some of the basic stuff in order for you to get into the big stuff. When I start talking about trades, when I start talking about the deals that I'm doing with this, when I start talking about the profits that I'm making on leveraging stuff, you did that. I shouldn't have to tell you, oh yeah, this is how you're supposed to do this. No, I should be able to tell you, hey, look, I seen a market crash, I tackled it. That's what I should be able to tell you. And you should be able to say, yep, I know exactly what he's talking about. I've been following him for the past 6 months. Got to tell you guys, jump in on that membership. If you need insider information on how to get stuff done, jump in on a membership, because I got information. I got students that are paying me about an hour to give them information. I feed information to folks. You know what I'm saying? You just get in on a membership and then get the inside scoop of some of these things that need to be done. And then you'll be better prepared. So as I walk out, I want you guys to remember that we're supposed to start around 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern, and 5 Pacific. But, you know, every now and again, we got something that's holding us back. So we're on at least close to 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central, 7:30 Pacific. But we're on every day. We're on every day. You just got to come and hang out and wait for us to dive in, and you'll be here while we're here. And then, you know, we can talk about whatever we're going to talk about in addition to the main topic, because on this and that, we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. So I just want to say, ladies, as we sign out, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking y'all to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. And for the rest of you guys that are on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, again, Omni81, I really appreciate you coming to the podcast. Red Void, I also really appreciate you to the podcast. It's definitely fantastic. You guys that are in Romania and Brazil, you guys definitely make the podcast what it is. And I really appreciate you guys' participation. I really appreciate y'all's feedback. Make sure that y'all like and subscribe. Share some of this information with some of your friends. Make sure that you guys also go back and check out the YouTube channel if you're not already on there. Go and double check it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You get notifications on all of the episodes. You get some foreshadowing of some of the future episodes, and you're able to see what's about to come. I add shows onto the list every day or every week at least, so you know some of the new stuff that's coming up. I still have to double check with the relationship coach that I'm supposed to be trying to get on the show. She hasn't gotten back to me yet. I know that Brett Owens is supposed to be finishing up in the next week or two with Little League, and then he's supposed to be getting in onto the show and start talking about his book. So we got a couple guests that's supposed to come up on the show. I got a few extra people that are supposed to be talking to us. We actually just got a product that just came in. Somebody that has a Nordstrom account, they wanted us to promo some of their products. I'm going to be doing some promo videos over the next couple of days that I'm going to be putting up on a YouTube page and a TikTok page. You're going to be able to see those. And then after I promo them on the TikTok and the YouTube page, then I'm going to talk about it on the live podcast. So by maybe Friday or Saturday, probably Sunday, some of the promo stuff that I got is going to be up here. You guys will be able to see that as well. So just make sure that you guys keep checking in with the show, seeing what we got going on 7 days a week, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, 5 Pacific. If you missed us today, the show is on repeat on YouTube. Go back and double check it. You definitely want to take a look at it because there's always information there for you to benefit from. And if you're on Twitch, I am actually making a highlight of the shows now. So instead of the shows disappearing after 7 days, I'm actually putting up highlights on Twitch. The whole show is highlighted. So if you missed part of the show and you're watching us on Twitch, go back and watch the highlights, because at least the past week, the full hour show is already there. You can rewatch the show or watch portions of the show that you missed so that you guys can get more information on the show. I'm doing extra stuff and going the extra mile to make sure that you guys can get as much information from me as possible, because it's better to get it from me for a few dollars a month than it is for you to pay somebody $300-400 for a 1 hour consultation for you to give some of the information so that they can bait you into paying more money so that you can get more information. Just get it all from me. That's what I'm here for. So I really thank you guys for coming to This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. I'm your host, Xander, and you guys have a good